Okay, so I want you to try a little thought experiment with me.
Right.
And I'm warning you, it's a little unsettling, so maybe don't do this if you're, driving in heavy traffic.
Noted.
Imagine you wake up tomorrow morning. You walk into the bathroom, the fluorescent light is humming, the tile's cold. You look in the mirror,
Okay.
you see a face. It has your eyes, your nose, that little scar on your chin from when you were 7.
Uh-huh.
You recognize the biology completely,
Yeah.
but you feel absolutely no connection to it.
It's the classic horror movie setup, but internal.
Right. But usually in movies, that means you're possessed or something.
Yeah.
In this scenario, there's no demon. There's just nothing.
Mm.
The voice in your head, the narrator that usually says, I'm looking in the mirror, the thing that claims your life is yours, has just vanished.
The lights are on, but nobody's home.
Exactly. The lights are on, the machinery is working, but the operator has left the building.
It is a terrifying premise, and I think what makes it so disturbing is that it's not entirely fiction. It really touches on the fragility of what we call the self.
And that is the hook of the source material we are deep diving into today. We are unpacking a novel called The Absence Museum by Jaden Metnet.
Yeah.
And let me tell you, calling this a novel feels like a bit of an undersell. It feels more like a heist movie, where the thing being stolen is your own personality.
I think that's a fair description. Metnet constructs this narrative that functions almost like a clinical case study, but, with a lot more heart.
And the entire story
Yeah.
revolves around a place called the Lethean Institute.
Which sounds ominous right away.
Oh, yeah. Lethean, like the river of forgetfulness.
Exactly. But here's the twist. It's not a hospital. And it's really important to make that distinction early because it frames everything that follows.
Okay.
It's a research facility run by this woman, Dr. Elise Lorn, for the last 53 years.
53 years. That is a long time to run a lab. So if it's not a hospital, what is she doing with the people there? Is she treating them or just, watching them fall apart?
That's the central tension. The Institute's mission isn't to cure, it's to study people with what Dr. Lorn calls disrupted self models.
Disrupted self models.
Right. These are people whose consciousness is fully functional. They can drive cars, eat soup, talk about the weather, but their sense of self, that feeling of being a specific person, has broken down or mutated.
So today, our mission is to walk through the doors of the Lethean Institute. We're going to meet the residents, these fascinating, kind of heartbreaking case studies of consciousness, and we're going to see what happens when the projector of the self becomes visible.
Because, as the book argues, once you see the mechanism, you can never unsee it.
Let's start with our protagonist, a guy named Pell.
Mm-hmm.
He's a cartographer by trade, which I thought was a little on the nose at first, but it actually works perfectly.
It really does. Pell is a map maker.
Yeah.
And his whole journey begins with what the book calls the toothbrush moment.
I honestly loved how boring this inciting incident was. There's no car crash, no lightning strike. He's just brushing his teeth. It's a Tuesday. And suddenly, click,
The narrator switches off.
gone. He describes it not as feeling like a robot or being behind class, but that he's finally seeing the reality that was always there. He says the glass was always there, he just never noticed it before.
And that distinction is crucial. Usually when we talk about depersonalization, people describe a fog.
Right.
Pell describes clarity, absolute, terrifying clarity. So he goes to Dr. Lorn, and she immediately rejects the standard diagnostic terms. She tells him, we don't do treatment, we do cartography.
Okay, unpack that for me. Because
Yeah.
if I went to a doctor saying, I don't feel like I exist, and she handed me a compass, I'd be a little annoyed.
Well, think about it this way. If you break your leg, a doctor sets the bone. The structure is there, it's just damaged.
Sure.
But for Pell, the self, the thing that needs fixing, is gone. You can't fix a phantom limb.
Sure.
So Dr. Lorn suggests a different approach. Instead of trying to rebuild the illusion, she wants him to map the empty space where it used to be.
So she's basically saying, don't try to fill the hole, just measure it.
Exactly. She wants him to map the territory of his absence. Think of the self usually as a clear window. You look through it at the world.
Right.
For Pell, the window has become opaque. He can see the glass, he can see the mechanism. And while Pell is, focusing on that visceral feeling of losing the eye, Dr. Lorn is pushing him to see it as an opportunity.
An opportunity?
The mechanism has finally become visible.
So Pell is our anchor, the man with the missing narrator. But the Institute is full of other residents. And this is where the book really opens up. It's like a gallery of consciousness disorders.
Metnet calls it the gallery of variations. And the contrasts here are so important. You have Pell, who represents absence.
The empty vessel.
But then you have his polar opposite, a resident named Curren.
Oh, Curren stressed me out just reading about him. If Pell is empty, Curren is overflowing. The book describes him as being drenched in himself.
Saturation is the word he uses. Imagine that every single thing you perceive, the taste of coffee, the hum of the fridge, the texture of your shirt, is stamped with your own signature.
So you can't just see a chair.
You see Curren seeing a chair.
That sounds absolutely exhausting.
It's agonizing. He has 47 notebooks filled with his writing, and there's this one detail about notebook 23 where he tries to write his way out of his own head.
But he can't.
He can't. He's trying to describe the experience, but he realizes every word he writes is just more of him. He can't escape the signature of his own experience.
It's like being trapped in a room of mirrors.
Precisely. It's the ultimate trap of subjectivity. But then, moving down the hall, you have Sable. Her condition is totally different.
It's not about too much or too little self. It's about time, memory.
Connection. Specifically memory.
But she's not an amnesiac, right? She knows who she is.
She remembers facts. She knows she was born in Ohio. She knows she ate oatmeal for breakfast. But she can't form autobiographical memories.
So she remembers oatmeal was eaten, but not I ate oatmeal.
Exactly. She says her memories feel like reading someone else's diary, which is what leads to her art. She takes photographs, specifically what she calls shadow portraits.
Right. She photographs her own shadow.
Against walls, sidewalks, floors.
Which seems kind of poetic, but also a little desperate.
Well, it's evidence. She photographs her shadow because it proves she was physically present in that moment, even if the internal feeling of being there fades away 5 minutes later. It's her attempt to anchor herself in a world that keeps slipping into the third person.
And then there's Yetta. She might be my favorite in a terrifying way. She lives in the radical now.
Yetta is a difficult case to wrap your head around. She has no narrative thread connecting one moment to the next. For us, life is a movie. It's continuous. There's cause and effect.
Yeah.
For Yetta, life is a slideshow.
So every time she blinks, it's a new world.
Essentially, every moment is the first moment. She's constantly waking up, and imagine the adrenaline of that. Never settling, always just arriving.
And finally, to round out this group, there's Gloss. And Gloss has the problem I think a lot of us feel on, like, social media, but magnified by 1,000.
Too many narrators.
Way too many.
He has what's called the multiplicity. Gloss has 3 simultaneous narratives running in his head. And they aren't just background noise, they're competing interpretations of reality.
So they argue.
Constantly. One analyzes the past, one anticipates the future, and one critiques the present. It creates this wall of noise.
But he's not trying to get rid of them.
No, he's constantly seeking what he calls convergence, a moment where they all align on the same truth.
So you have this group of, I don't know, broken toys, or at least that's how society would see them. Pell, Curren, Sable, Yetta, Gloss. But Dr. Lorn sees them as explorers.
Right. And Pell, being a cartographer, starts actually drawing maps of this experience.
And this is where the book shifts from case studies to something more metaphysical. He draws a map of the phenomenological landscape.
Yeah.
Okay, phenomenological landscape is a $10 phrase. What does that actually look like on paper?
It's fascinating. He maps the gap.
The gap.
Think of it this way. Usually, you touch a hot stove and you instantly say, I felt pain. It's instantaneous. Pell draws a map where the pain and the I are 2 different continents. He maps the literal distance between the sensation and the story we tell about it. He also maps the commons, which is where their experiences overlap.
But there's one feature on the map that stops Dr. Lorn in her tracks.
The door.
He draws a door leading to just blank white space, and he labels it the unobserved.
And this is the core philosophical pivot of the whole story. Dr. Lorn looks at this map and she realizes that Pell has visualized what she's been hunting for 53 years.
Which is what?
That blank space isn't empty. It's not a void. It's the fundamental ground of consciousness. It's the screen on which the movie of the self is projected.
And to find out what's behind that door, the residents decide to do something risky. They stage a mutiny.
But not a violent one.
No, it's a very quiet philosophical mutiny.
Thus,
This is the midnight experiment.
the scene setting here is just masterful. They decide to experiment on themselves without Dr. Lorn's supervision. They gather in the common room at midnight. They turn off the main lights and just have this single amber lamp burning in the corner.
And they don't do anything complicated. They don't take drugs. They don't chant. They just close their eyes.
That's all it takes. When you remove the observer, Dr. Lorn, and you remove the visual cues of separation, the gap that Pell mapped begins to close.
Yeah.
Metnet describes it as the 6 becoming one because Dr. Lorn actually discovers them and joins in midway through.
The sensory details here are just wild. Curren, the guy who's usually trapped in his own saturation, he feels his edges soften. He describes it like sugar dissolving in water.
And Pell, the empty man, feels filled.
Yeah.
They access a shared awareness. It's like they tap into a pool of consciousness that belongs to no one and everyone simultaneously.
And there's physical evidence of this,
Yeah.
right? It's not just due hallucination.
Right, Sable. She sets up her camera for a long exposure shot during the session.
Oh, what does this show?
The resulting photograph shows this blurred, composite figure. Because they were all shifting and breathing in sync, it looks like one multi-headed entity. It's visual proof that their boundaries were actually dissolving.
And Gloss, the guy with the 3 warring voices in his head, he hears a 4th voice.
But it's not a new narrative. He describes it as a harmonic tone. It's the sound of his 3 narratives aligning perfectly. It's the sound of integration.
The convergence he was looking for.
Exactly.
So this is the breakthrough. But what does this mean for Dr. Lorn? She's been studying this for half a century. She has this massive archive. 53 years of boxes, case files, recordings.
This is the climax of her arc. After the experiment, she goes back to the archive, but she doesn't organize it by name or date anymore. She rearranges the entire archive. She connects reports using red threads,
Okay.
linking them by the shape of the experience rather than the person who had it.
And when she steps back,
The red threads form the shape of Pell's door.
wow, that is such a cinematic image. The data itself points to the exit.
Exactly. She realizes she has been looking through a window at consciousness for decades, but after that midnight experiment, the window dissolves. She realizes there are no sides, there is no observer and observed, there is just awareness.
And her ending is,
Mm-hmm.
it's very quiet. She leaves the Institute.
Mhm.
But she doesn't retire to play golf or write a memoir.
No. She leaves so she can experience hearing this without recording it. There's that final entry in her personal notebook where she writes about drinking tea.
Yeah, I remember that.
And she just describes the heat, the taste, the steam. She doesn't analyze what the tea means for her psyche. She just drinks it.
It's the ultimate success of her research.
Yeah.
She finally stops studying life and starts living it.
Mm-hmm.
But what about the residents? They have to go back to the real world. They aren't cured, right? They don't magically get their old selves back.
No, and Metnet is very careful with that distinction. They aren't cured, but they are healed. And there's a difference. They are integrated.
Integrated.
Sable uses the metaphor of a scar.
I like that. Because a scar is tissue that is different. It's tougher, it doesn't tan, it has no hair follicles. But it works. It holds the skin together.
And it holds the history of the wound. They carry the experience with them.
Curren's evolution was the one that really stuck with me. The man burdened by himself. He digs up an old archive entry from 1979 and finds the phrase, sacred weight.
This changes everything for him. He flips the narrative. He accepts the burden of selfhood not as a private prison, but as a universal connection. He realizes, oh, everyone feels this heavy.
Right.
Everyone is carrying the burden of being a person. I'm just feeling the raw weight of it.
It's like gravity. It's not punishing you specifically. It's just what holds you to the earth.
Precisely. And then there is Yetta, our Lady of the Perpetual now. She discovers something pretty profound.
Which is?
Truth is adhesive.
Adhesive truth. That's a sticky phrase. What does she mean by that?
She finds that when she speaks a felt truth, something that comes from her core, it sticks. It creates a bridge across the moments.
So she starts to build memories.
A few permanent ones, yeah, like a conversation on the roof. The truth of them was strong enough to survive the slideshow.
So lies wash away, but truth stays. That's a powerful idea for someone with memory issues.
It is. And the archive doesn't just sit there gathering dust. Dr. Lorn creates a distributed archive. She sends these handmade books titled Return to Former Residents.
Like a newsletter for the enlightened.
Or a support group for the awakened. It includes a letter from a guy named Harold Moss, a resident from 2004. He described his agency as wind.
Right.
And he writes back saying he discovered the wind originates in the space between people.
Wow.
It's a beautiful validation of that midnight experiment, that consciousness isn't trapped in your skull, it's something shared.
Which brings us to the end. Pell goes back to his job. He's a cartographer again.
But he's mapping differently, he's drawing a watershed, and he has this realization about what he calls the transparent self.
Okay.
He realizes he is both the narrator and the watcher.
He sees the ridgeline, a line the earth draws on itself. Just as the self is a line consciousness draws on itself.
That's the image to hold on to. The plane and the line. We spend our entire lives obsessing over the line, the story of me, my career, my problems, my identity.
Right.
We forget the plane, the paper, the awareness that the line is drawn upon.
It makes you wonder, if you stop drawing the line for just a second,
Right.
what would be left on the paper?
MetNet suggests that what remains isn't nothing, it's the blank space. And that blank space is full.
It's the residue that remains when the story of you takes a breath.
Uh,
It's a lot to mull over. So the next time you look in the mirror, ask yourself, who is doing the looking? You might find the answer isn't a person, it's just a space. And that space is wide open.